Let's talk about this story here. He's a woman. Okay, trans teacher / coach arrested for sexually abusing a student. School and media hide the perpetrator's real agenda. Now, as we go along with this tonight, you're going to find that this is not something that is unique to this situation. You're going to find that, if you look yesterday, we posted about a man who was stabbing people, or was it the day before? Who walked in and stabbed 4 girls in the movie theater who was transgender, and they called him a man, rightly so. I know he did it Sunday. But they hid the transgender. And they're doing that because what they want to do is they don't want you to realize how truly wicked and violent these people are. So they're trying to hide all the nonsense about these people and who they really are from you because they don't want you knowing who they are. They don't really want you to know that this is part of the LGBT, that this is who they are. I mean, think about it. Mentally ill people who are taking hormones, what could possibly go wrong? And this is happening at an unprecedented scale, so much so that we don't even realize how bad it is. So if we look at this one here, on March 13th of this year, a warrant was issued for the arrest of Nicko Deocampo Miranda, who's 43 years old, a computer teacher and a girls volleyball coach at Eisenhower High School in Lawton, Oklahoma. The charge was felony sexual battery, and it involves one of Miranda's female students. The media, the local and the national media, promptly and inaccurately reported this story. All you have to do is look at ABC affiliate KSWO Channel 7 News in Lawton, Oklahoma. They reported that Miranda turned himself in after being accused of an inappropriate relationship with one of his students. The Lawton Constitution stated a felony warrant has been issued for the man's arrest. MSN News echoed local reporting saying his bond was set for $100,000 and he faces up to 10 years in prison if convicted. While reports of, concerning multiple sleepovers at this guy's house, and months of sexually explicit text messages between the coach and the student were pulled from court documents, a major error occurred in every single legacy media account of this story. And that fact is that Miranda is actually, you ready for this? Is actually a woman. But not a single person reported on it. They all reported that she was a he. But you see, Governor Stitt made an order in 2023 that flushed out this gender deception because his order says females go to women's prisons and vice versa. On March 14th, Nicko Deocampo Miranda was booked into the Comanche County Detention Center in southwest Oklahoma, and Miranda was held within the women's section of the facility because she's a biological female. Okay? But nobody, not a single solitary person, not a single solitary news outlet reported the fact that this was a transgender. So when you hear about, LGBT folks, they're not harming children, the numbers or whatever, you have to realize what they're doing here. They're saying that this person was a male who harmed a female. It looks like a heterosexual thing. It's not. This was a lesbian, transgender. But nobody reported that. We seem to be the only ones that are reporting accurately on this stuff. Those of us who are exposing this stuff, those of us who preach against it, those of us who stand against it. The media, social media, is all covering for these people because they want to protect them at all costs. And yet we still buy into the deception, don't we? In 2023, Governor Stitt, with former college swimmer Riley Gaines, who is an activist now, she's a women's advocate, signed an executive order called the Women's Bill of Rights. And the order defines people in Oklahoma as male or female based upon their biological sex, one's reproductive system at birth. According to Governor Stitt at the signing, no men are going into women's prisons in the state of Oklahoma. No men in women's domestic shelters, and no men in women's locker rooms. No men in women's bathrooms, no men in women's sports. And Miranda, the teacher here, though known only as a male at Eisenhower High School, was held as a female inmate. And it's unclear what will be more surprising to the parents of Eisenhower High School, the arrest or the news that this person is not a man. They don't know that. They all covered up and buried this story. Every single one of them. The school district was aware of the coach's sex and lied and deceived the parents. As progressive school districts and national education organizations fight to hide student gender swapping and teacher misconduct from parents under the guise of privacy and or personal issues, this case begs some important new questions. Should parents be informed if their child's teacher or coach appears as and claims to be the opposite biological sex during work hours? Does the Oklahoma State Department of Education, as the state-level oversight agency for all of public education, have a right to know if teachers are cross-dressing at school? Even in our state, I live here in Oklahoma, in my state here, gender markers cannot be legally changed, and non-binary is not an option on birth certificates. Nicko Miranda was able to teach and coach as the opposite gender for nearly 2 years, unbeknownst to parents. And if you look at this picture over here, this is a picture taken on from their Facebook, from his or her, whatever you want to call it. How about that? Let's just call it. From her Facebook in 2022. Okay. Now, what's interesting. Whoops. Sorry. What was the last thing you guys heard from me? Did that fix the sound? Real quick, did that fix the audio issue there? Let me check and see. I forgot to put the audio in the mixer here. Did that fix the audio issue there? It did. It fixed it. Okay. So what I was saying was that our friends of our visit reached out to the superintendent here of schools and asked him if the school district knew that this was a female pretending to be male, why they lied to parents, and, did they notify the Oklahoma, Department of Education about this? Would be teaching and coaching as a male. Our friends over a visit also asked Heim here, the superintendent, if state law requiring public education staff and students utilize the bathroom and locker room facility, the bathroom and whatnot, that was supposed to be aligned with their biological sex, was followed by Miranda or enforced by her superiors. The superintendent, of course, and unsurprisingly, did not respond. They never do, by the way. These superintendents, these teachers, they never respond. Lawton High School has a lot of different administrators. Given hiring requirements, those involved in bringing Miranda on board had to have known her biological sex. And it's unknown how many other administrators became aware of Miranda's biological status as a female after the hiring process and knowingly kept parents in the dark. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Would you want to know who was involved, your kids in the locker rooms and whatnot? Would you want to know? I mean, I would. So at least 3 other public agencies were aware, at least on paper, that Miranda was a woman. According to the Oklahoma State Department of Education website, background checks are a necessary component for Oklahoma educators, district personnel, and school support staff. These background checks are based on fingerprint checks processed through the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Okay? And somehow, this was missed. Nobody can figure it out, but just missed. Got through the system. The background check process for teachers requires the applicant to indicate his or her biological sex and involves the school district, Oklahoma State Department of Education, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation. All agencies involved were made aware that Miranda was a female through this process. It is unknown if any of these agencies were also informed by Lawton Public School that Miranda would present herself as male while teaching and coaching. Miranda currently holds emergency and adjunct certifications to teach computer science and industrial arts to middle and high school students through the Oklahoma State Department of Education. Those certifications are set to expire at the end of June. But something tells me it's going to be pulled a lot sooner than that. Personally and professionally, Miranda was presented to the Lawton community students and parents as a family man. Pretty convincing performance, but playing male teacher and trusted coach right up until her arrest. Family man, that's how they portrayed this woman. As a family man, right? As a family man. According to Miranda's own social media accounts, she describes herself as a Lolo, which is a grandfather, dad, husband, coach, teacher, private volleyball coach, and advocate for greater public education funding. This is on her own social media accounts, okay? I love this one here. This is from hers too. It's all about the kids, right? They always say that. All these degenerates, all these people, they always say, it's all about the kids. Now, again, when you and I say that, it invokes very different meaning and image for us. When I say it's all about the kids, when I talk about, let's say, for instance, my children, we do things to make our children happy, to do things to make sure they're protected and safe from harm. You know, when my kids go in the pool, my son wears floaties and everything else. The kids have to wear sunblock. It's all about the kids. When they say it's about the kids, they mean something very different. Every single time I hear one of these people say it's all about the children, I hear about somebody sexualizing or grooming some kid. Every single time. So when they say it's all about the kids, you have to understand what they mean when they say it's all about the children. Because, again, they use their vocabulary. But these people have a very, very different dictionary than you and I. They use the same terms as we do. They use the same verbiage that we do. But what they mean by these things is very different, and it's all satanic, and it's meant to confuse you, to deceive you, to manipulate you. And we buy it hook, line, and sinker. Because even when a story like this comes out, and you haven't seen nothing yet, so far all we got into the story so far is a female pretending to be a male, okay, who was paraded around as a family man and everything else, right? Now, what's even more interesting is this thing had a spouse. And her then spouse posted a celebration of her husband's hiring as a new teacher and coach by the Lawton Public School Board during the summer of 2022, stating, "You're going to do great things and change so many lives." Well, we know that she changed at least one life, that's for sure. Right? Just months after becoming a teacher and a coach, Miranda's reported to have moved out of the couple's home to her own residence, where sexual abuse of at least one student is reported to have taken place. One so far. That's all we know about just one. Could be more. We know of one for sure. Right? Miranda then filed for divorce without minor children, which was granted in June of 2023. According to case documents, on February 7th, 2024, the mother of a Lawton High School student reported her daughter's GPS location showed she was spending a considerable amount of time, including overnight stays at Miranda's house. The investigation uncovered several months of sexually explicit messages between Miranda, who was 43, and the student, who's 18, who Miranda identified within the communications as her girlfriend. A statement by the school district at the time of Miranda's arrest refers to Miranda only as an employee and does not include any gender-identifying pronouns. Upon notification of an allegation, the employee was immediately placed on administrative leave. Law enforcement and all proper authorities were notified, and an investigation was conducted. The employee is no longer with the district. Safety is at the forefront of priorities, and we take every report seriously. The district's commitment to safety appears to include hiring these people who have significant behavioral health challenges. Pre-2000, scientists and researchers regularly published findings recognizing the behavioral risk associated with the use of cross-sex hormones in the treatment of gender dysphoria. To quote just one, right, this is the Psychoneuroendocrinology Science Direct 1995, the administration of androgens to females was clearly associated with an increase in aggression, proneness, sexual arousability, and spatial ability performance. Now, you know, it's funny because whenever you quote something, you'll find that the leftists, the liberals, the sexual deviants, the perverts, they always want to say, well, that was before. We have a greater understanding today. We do? We have a greater understanding today? See, they don't want you to go back and look at those studies from back then, because when you actually look at those studies, you're going to realize, man, something's wrong here. They don't want you to pay attention to that, because now it's not really new science. It's new propaganda. It's new propaganda is all that there is. They don't want you to look back at things that were when you were allowed to have the access to all the information. They don't want you to look back by then. That's why they discredit anything prior to, you know, this enlightening period, as they call it, of people waking up to this. And we know a lot more now about gender and all these other things here. Don't let them do that, by the way. Don't let them get away with that stuff, because that's what they do, because they want to bury and cover up the truth. Their entire agenda, their entire existence hinges on you not knowing the truth. Okay? You have to remember and understand that. Miranda's case, this case perfectly illustrates the danger for students when school districts secretly prioritize compassion for adults with mental illness over the God-given right and responsibility of parents to assess risks associated with those who interact with their children. The district's board meeting minutes suggest any discussion about Miranda prior to her hiring either did not occur or happened behind closed doors with an executive session and was not noted. Now, you know, we uncovered something else interesting here. Closed session. It was about that principal that was arrested. That his arrest came up for being arrested for possession of child porn, who was bringing in his drag queen buddies to the school, whom one of them was actually arrested for sexually texting a student. They were trying to meet up with a student. Remember that? There's a real problem here. And to make things even worse, the use of multiple names makes gender hoppers difficult to track and background checks potentially incomplete. And that's our new name for them, gender hoppers. No more gender dysphoria, no more this. They're gender hoppers. Miranda's stated name has morphed throughout her lifetime, as evidenced by a speeding ticket from 2001 when she was 20 years old. Miranda's birth name is Misty Star Deocampo Miranda. Through a 2002 citation separates her first name as Misty Star Miranda. During 2011, both an indebtedness case in Comanche County and a traffic citation in neighboring Grady County list Misty Star Miranda as the defendant with a residential address in Jackson, Florida. Both cases list Miranda's confirmed date of birth. Weird. County voter registration records show Nicko Misty Star Deocampo Miranda registered to vote in Comanche County as a Democrat. What a shock! Democrat. during 2014, further confirming Nicko and Misty Star are indeed the very same person. I can hear you guys all shocked that this person, this female, was transgender, was registered Democrat. I know you're all shocked by this, and it's just amazing to me, that you're shocked. I know. Similarly, in 2016, Nicko Misty Star Deocampo Miranda applied for a marriage license with Marietta D. Perry, also known as Asia Miranda, Asia Perry, and Asia Clear. Here it is here. Publicly available online trackers appear to be doing a much better job connecting aliases for offenders than law enforcement or even our court systems can do. This raises serious questions about the accuracy of educator background checks that operate within government data sources. Visit has been unable to locate any documents confirming a legal name change related to Miranda, making the tracking of national criminal records for this individual extremely difficult. Didn't know. She provided private volleyball coaching to a number of Lawton public school students. Parents and guardians are encouraged to talk with children who participated in those activities. And additional incidents of abuse related to Miranda should be reported to the Lawton Police Department, the Oklahoma State Department of Education, and Oklahoma's Child Abuse Hotline. Beware of public education staff receiving internal awards, trophies, titles, and top salaries for making kids unsafe. Be very aware and cautious of this. Be very aware and cautious of people, public education staff receive awards, trophies, titles, top salaries, and all this, because we find a pattern here. In an ongoing trend among progressives, public education districts, and administrators, Lawton Public Schools named Mr. Miranda, now an accused sex offender, as Rookie Teacher of the Year during her first year of teaching, which was last year. Visit previously highlighted the practice of awarding and promoting gender-confused staff members and like-minded coworkers member within Western Heights. We stood up there and rebuked that school, went to the school board meeting and everything else. Remember that? Remember Shane Mernon, known drag queen, serving principal at John Glenn Elementary? Faced child pornography charges earlier in his career. Hired a number of his co-worker drag queens. Remember that? And then one of the drag queens actually got caught trying to harm a child. Well, anyway, on June 23rd, 2022, at the very school board meeting where Miranda was hired by Lawton Public Schools, Superintendent Kevin Heim and his wife, Stephanie Heim, were recognized for receiving top awards from the state's increasingly progressive Association for Public School Administrators. The Cooperative Council for Oklahoma School Administration is a highly political organization whose online list of legislative goals and guiding principles for 2023-2024 includes a heavy focus on education funding and educator pay, but never once mentions parents. Kevin and Stephanie Heim were named CCOSA's 2022 Superintendent of the Year and Administrator of the Year, respectively. Currently, Kevin Heim's annual compensation package totals $290,351 a year. And Stephanie Heim, up until last year, made $121,426 annually from Lawton Public Schools. The median household income in Oklahoma is just over $61,000. Only 18% of Lawton students test as proficient in math, with only 22% having proficiency in English and science. The Oklahoma State Board of Education, the Oklahoma State Department of Education, and State Board of Education are seeking the passage of new rules through state legislature that would in part strengthen the agency's ability to hold districts accountable for hiring practice that endanger children and to revoke educator certifications for acts of moral turpitude. And wouldn't you know it, you guys? Wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you just know it? The Democrats, the LGBT lobbyists are all fighting against this. They don't like this. They don't want this. They're saying it's bigoted, it's homophobic, it's transphobic, it puts teachers in danger. When in reality, the teachers are the ones who are putting our children in danger. How many teachers have to be arrested for sexually abusing children before we wake up to the reality of what's happening here? How many teachers, how many more students have to be abused, molested, maligned, harmed, assaulted, texted, sexted, whatever, before parents and before conservatives and before Christians finally say, you know what, we've had enough. I keep hearing about it. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this. You're not really that tired of it because you know what? This is happening all over the country. Okay, it is a well-known fact that these cross-sex hormones cause all these different issues. We read it there in one of the science magazines. They don't want you knowing this, okay? Because again, when you look back and you actually study it, you're going to find out they want to bury this. They don't want you to see the hypersexuality. They're prone to violence and all these things here. But the proof is in the pudding, folks. These teachers are hurting our children. The LGBTQRMAP are nothing more than child perverts. That's all they are. They want your children. And anybody says otherwise is just a liar. Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all of them cover up and protect them and demonize anyone who dares to expose it. Just